Is anybody else noticing fewer Halloween decorations in their area? Because I live in the suburban sprawl of a major metro area, and I definitely am. And I think it's kind of reflective of where we are with our sense of community. And I've already felt for a number of years now that you can track the disillusion of our sense of local community by observing how we handle Halloween now. Because Halloween, more even than Christmas or most other holidays, except for maybe 4th of July, is a community holiday. Traditions central to celebrating Halloween, at least here in America, necessitate community involvement and, crucially, interacting with and trusting one's neighbors. And this is what brings me to people not putting out their Halloween decorations and the advent of trunk or treats. See, I grew up in a small town in the middle of Kansas with like 2,500 people, and there were obviously some houses we knew not to knock on, or people who would signal that their house was not available to give out candy every year because the lights were off, or some other indicator that you shouldn't go to that house. But largely, trick-or-treating involved knocking on the doors of people you don't know. And yeah, even in that small a town, you don't know some people. But one thing that really confounded me when my family moved to a major suburban area was that in the culture of HOAs and modern subdivisions, not only did people still not know most of their neighbors, they also didn't trust them. In fact, I would argue that in modern American culture, especially in suburban sprawl, there is a sort of fundamental ethic of not trusting your neighbor. Everyone supports this idea that you should not trust the people who you do not know. They won't have your best interest in mind. In fact, everyone is there to either exploit or assault you, which is fundamental to the design of these subdivisions, after all. That's why so many of them don't even have sidewalks. So not only do you not feel a reason to get to know your neighbor, you also have fewer means. Which brings us to Halloween and trick-or-treating, because trunk-or-treats are not a new thing, but they are so incredibly common in suburban areas. I mean, my major suburban sprawl county has, like, fucking tons of them. And I also find it interesting to notice how many of them are held by churches, who include in the messaging, in the advertising for the event, that this is a matter of safety. Not just coming out to trick-or-treat with your congregation, with the people you're in fellowship with, but because it's not safe for you elsewhere. You need to go to a trustworthy, reliable place that's actually safe, unlike your neighbors and where you live. Which is always a pretty dark insinuation, especially from religions that are all about reaching out to your neighbors and, trusting the people that other people tell you not to trust. I always thought Christianity was partially about taking a risk on a stranger, but modern Christian culture and evangelicalism would have you believe otherwise. But diatribe about my own religion aside, I also want to step then on the decorations, because the decorations, as I sort of alluded to earlier, are one of the signals to trick-or-treaters that you're available to give out candy. I mean, they're also a cool way to show off that you're into jack-o'-lanterns and ghosts, if that's true for your personality, but let's say you're not someone who is like me and really into Halloween, you're just decorating for the season. It's not like Christmas where you're showing off how beautiful your house can look, because there's actual stakes involved, right? If you set up a mummy display out in your front lawn, it's reasonable to assume that an 8-year-old is going to show up on October the 31st asking for Kit Kats, if not a few dozen of them. And I'm not insinuating that everyone should participate in Halloween. Obviously, some people just don't like the holiday, or they can't afford to give out candy, or they will be on the road with their children. But it is a community ideal, right? That we are all contributing together to a seasonal vibe, as well as participating in a tradition that is not for us, it is for strangers. It is for children and a next generation. But the individualism inherent to suburbia vilifies the stranger. And in a more dense community, like a small town or a city, local churches would be giving out Halloween candy every year, not creating some way in which all people must come to them as if they are a sort of community monopoly, which, if you've ever worked with a startup church, is kind of the design of the model, where you should be spending your Wednesday nights, your Tuesday nights, your Sunday nights, your Monday mornings, etc. Division, individualism, isolation. Division, individualism, isolation. And I do also know that part of the reason for this lack of Halloween decorations is how many houses in my county are empty rentals that aren't even listed as available. So that's affecting the numbers too. Just lonely facades building someone's portfolio. All that to say, I would advise you this year when you are talking to friends and family bemoaning the loss of a spirit of community to suggest to them that they say hi to strangers, decorate for Halloween, give out some candy, and go trick-or-treating in their own neighborhood.